Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King, and today I'm going to be giving you part 8 of What If Naruto Was One for Legendary 7. Remember to get this one to 100 like as usual, share this to all of your friends in your social media platform, and also guys, stay in tune for the results coming your way over on Anime King 2 and Anime King 3. If you're new, yes, I indeed have 3 channels, Anime King 2, Anime King 3, which I post what if on every single day for you guys to enjoy. So go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and your support. Remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new. I'll be replying talking back to all of you. So yeah, without further ado, what do you say begin this new episode start? The intro. So the last time we left off, Mainjutsu was in bad condition. A really bad condition, as the explosive had hurt him badly. Naruto activated his Mytonic regeneration ability, something that he shouldn't have done because he wasn't supposed to show all of his abilities. Although these were not the maximum capability that he could do. But he had to save him. After all, if he did not do anything, he would die. As the group watched as they were surprised, they were astonished as he saw Bones mend back together, as he was doing a whole lot better than he was a few moments ago. As the group sighed in relief as Mainjutsu was gonna be okay, we then skipped to Kiri. Ino had some news. She was pregnant, as she told Sakumo about this. As Sakumo thought about the fallout and everything that, well, was gonna happen with this situation, this would get Kiri off their back. After all, despite being married, Kiri wanted Naruto to be with multiple of women so that he could recreate the Namikaze bloodline, as he was getting many offers day in and day out. But with this, they can squash all of those offers without thinking about them. But there still is a lot of problem now, as Ino never thought about this. But she would not make a decision until he returned, despite what Sakumo said. Sakumo saw that she was just afraid, but he was worried. They had caught a few of the members that were traitors of the village, and it wasn't pretty. They were brutalized, they were slaughtered. Even a woman 4-year-old son was killed, just to show the ruthlessness of the ninjas. If anyone was to find out anything, it would be bad, really bad. And Sakumo was no worried because Ino was with child, as he was more worried than before. Some time passed as they were still scouting out the area, as Naruto was left alone when he came upon someone. To his surprise, it was Kushina. We then dive into a flashback, as it was when the scientists were experimenting on them to make them ready for combat. It was then that he met Kushina, and they stuck together along with his younger brother ever since, until they grew feelings for each other, and she became his girlfriend. She told him what happened that night, as she had realized that the S programs were dead. As Naruto was the only one left, she felt horrible, but she had to go on. She had to revenge her comrade, so she took a Kumoku no Ichi attire and made their way in their ranks. All these years she has been in their ranks, reporting back to Uzo, as she was using the opportunity to check up on Naruto. That was all that she wanted to know. For her undergoing this dangerous mission, she just wanted to know if he was okay. And she was happy to see him again. She was glad that he didn't hate her as she thought, as now they had the perfect opportunity of taking down the city. First thing first, they would have a distraction team, which would compose of the heavy hitters that was me, Kisame, and Naruto, while the others go in and assassinate the daimyo. As they got ready, it was going to be a bloodbath, chaotic. So yeah guys, it was basically as we left off. You guys can switch across and please check it out for yourself. So what is to begin this new episode? Me sadly watch as she looked towards the enemy base. She clenched her fist in anger as she saw a few Kumo shinobis indulging themselves to liquor, and a few of the men were harassing a young, teenage girl who looked terrified as hell. She flinched as one of the Jonins ripped the girl's shirt off, earning a cry from a child. Bastard, she cursed. Kisame remained silent, as usual, as she glanced towards Naruto. Look in his eyes, he had seen it all. How many of them, said Kisame. 240, 250, said Naruto. It's a forward base. As he used his sensory power to scope the base out. Well, said Kisame, that's enough for everyone then, as he had a grin on his face, despite the grim situation. Mei remained silent as she saw Naruto pick himself up, as he pulled out his three-pronged kunai, as he held both of them in his hands. His red eyes became more brighter, and his bloodlust started to rise. It was like she was seeing him enter a battle mode or something. Unknown to her, Naruto was undergoing huge changes. His body was enhancing. His vision was becoming a lot better despite the dark night. His hearing being increased to hear the smallest insect over in the corner. His muscles expanding. The adrenaline pumping through his body. All thanks to the chemicals and genetic enhancement inside of him. It had been quite some years since he has fully activated his gifts from the spotter program. It was all that he had left when the bastards had took everything else away from him. Kill them all and make as much noise as you can, said Naruto. That should attract the other forces here and make the infiltration team tasks a lot easier. Finally, said Kisame, some much needed action. As Naruto turned towards me, she gave him a firm nod, with nothing left to be said. As Naruto jumped down to the ground, the other two landing beside him. Let's go. As Naruto surged through the forest like a flash of lightning shrouded in darkness, his red eyes already locked on his first targets. Water style. Water bullet. The heads of the two guards exploded as the attack came from the forest with such speed they weren't able to react in time. As the bodies started to fall, Naruto leaped, jumping right over the wall. As he dived towards the enemy group that was stacked near to the fire, in an instant he buried his twin kunais right into the throat of the Jonin. He twists as he tossed both kunais. It pierced through the skull of the two drunken men, who didn't even see their death coming, as Naruto flipped and pulled his kunai from their skull. As Naruto heard two sets of screams as he turned, Mei had used lava from her mouth to boil the man who was harassing the child. She did not look affected in the slightest as she watched as the man was boiled, melted in front of her eyes. Scum like that don't deserve to live. She looked towards the civilian girl and told her to run. The girl instantly ran off. The other forces were alerted as he started to come out of the building. Naruto twisted his kunai backwards and was about to intercept, but someone else took action before him. A faint red colored gas was distributed across the base. At first Naruto thought that it was smoke, but he then saw the enemy troops getting caught up in the gas storm. The men and women screamed as this gas was poisonous. First it was their skin that started to melt away, down to the bone. Their eyes popped out of their skull until they dissolved into a mush of rotten flesh. Kisame finally arrived as he looked. It was over? Damn, he whispered. Mei didn't even flinch as she looked towards the destruction she caused. But then she felt a shiver run down her spine as a foul, corrupted chakra started to be spread all around them. Foul chakra. Those bastards. It was only a few times that Mei heard the beast inside her spoke. And now the thing was outraged. It was furious. Something's coming, said Kisame. As Naruto gestured for them to come over, Mei saw the serious look in his eyes. Mei, on my command, unleash your full power, said Naruto. Are you sure? She hesitated. As Naruto nodded, you must, if any of us are to survive. He turned towards Kisame. They're coming. Judging from the cautious look on the commander's face, something bad was coming their way. Don't try to fight them on your own or with brute force. You will die, said Naruto. Kisame saw the gaze that Naruto was giving him. Something was coming, something dangerous. Manji formation. As they took back to back, as Naruto nodded, Kisame went through hand sign. Hidden mist jutsu, he said. Mei gulped as the mist spread around the entire area. Both her and Kisame were taught to survive and stay in the mist. And Naruto was an ex-envoy, so he would be fine. Mask on. Follow my lead and don't break formation. Lace your blades with chakra. They followed the commands without question. As Naruto picked up a blade from one of the dead ninjas, with his now existing blade he now had two blades in his hand. As he flooded his chakra through them, the ash started to spread from his body and spread across the mist. You could not see it with your naked eyes. It also spread across the blades in his hand, and flames ignited on the blades. Even from their distance, Mei could feel the intense heat. She blinked as something shot past her vision. As she looked around, she heard growls, animalistic growls. Did you guys see? She couldn't get to finish that sentence as the groan exploded under her feet, releasing a hideous creature that roared. Before she knew it, an uppercut slammed right under her jaw that sent her sailing up in the sky. Kisame snarled as he spun around, but he felt another shadow flicker behind him instantly. All he saw was the gaze of a monster before he was sent sailing a dozen feet away. Naruto grimaced as they were slammed away, as the two enemies roared at him. They were just as he remembered. Before him stood two inhumane chakra monster that had chakra that was foul as a tail beast. The cold, empty look in their eyes, showing the will and the humanity they gave up for this kind of power. They were the only ones that ever posed a mortal threat to his life, and the ones who played a hand in his brother's death. Their eyes looked towards his mask as they saw the red, those cold red eyes, as the both of them whispered at the same time, "Spot on." The moment those words barely left their throats, Naruto was behind them, his speed so intense they couldn't even move to react. As the both of them looked down, a nasty gash in their chests. As their flesh started to burn, they dropped to the ground as their chests had turned away into ash as they were dead. As Naruto felt a massive gust of wind that blew away the mist around him, as he saw 5 pairs of demonic eyes, their tails swinging behind them, the bloodlust in them. As Naruto's hands started to shake, not in fear, the uncontrollable bloodlust as he saw them again. His whole body started to shake uncontrollably. Meanwhile, Mei coughed up blood as she picked herself up slowly. She felt like someone had set her head on fire. Thankfully, Kisame appeared beside her and helped her in the process, while nursing his own wounds. Together, they both looked towards the approaching enemy. "Mei, is that Biju chakra?" Kisame asked, its own hesitation and fear easy for her to see. She judging from the incoming monsters, and judging from the beast inside of her being so angry, Kisame was right. Now I understand why the Kinkaku are feared across the entire world as the most dangerous unit. Their skills were already threatening, and now they have the power to Biju inside of them, Mei said in a worried tone. "Kumo only has 2 tail beasts. How do they all have that power inside of them?" asked Kisame. He was sure that the answer he was going to receive is not going to be something he would like. "Most likely," said Mei, "the village must have experimented on them for them to be able to use this power. Jinjurikis are weapons of mass destruction, but they are limited to the number of tailed beasts a village possesses. Kumo break that limit by creating an entire division of forces that can wield Biju chakra, making them all have Jinjuriki in their own right. While they don't have all the chakra that Biju has, they have enough to make them a serious threat," said Mei. As if their luck wasn't worse enough, she and Kisame heard roars, hundreds of roars all over the forest. And it then happened. Hundreds of units, from envoys to chunins to royal guards from a daimyo, burst inside the forest, while the beasts, the half-Bijus, remained in the shadows. As Naruto appeared in a flash right beside him. "Leave the Kinkaku to me. Watch my back by handling the others." Mei was about to talk against that suicidal action, but she was stopped when Kisame placed a hand on her shoulder. As Kisame looked directly towards Naruto, who gave him a nod. As Kisame nodded back, "He'll create an opening and we will follow." "Understood," said Kisame. "Very well," said Mei. Kisame then took a breath. He then released his killing intent. Hundreds of the enemies stepped back in fear. As Mei then released foul red chakra that started to cover her body. Her hair flowed freely, and her features became more demonic. As Naruto looked towards Kinkaku forces, as they started to march up after seeing Mei reveal her Biju power, but they were stopped. The ground started to shake and crack under their feet. The air started to become heavy and thick, so thick in fact it was hard to breathe for the enemy. Now, as Naruto flashed away as he appeared above the enemy forces, Mei remembered him spreading his ash all over the earth before even the fight began. Ash release. Particle annihilation. The inferno was ignited upon Naruto activating his jutsu, as the ash went off in an explosion. More than 5 dozen started to burn and cry out in pain. But the attack was far from over, as Naruto flashed through hand sign after image clones. He landed on the ground surrounded by a dozen lookalikes of him as they shot forward. Adrenaline pumped through his veins as such alarming rate time seems to slow down. The first opponent barely even blinked as his head was sent sailing. His clone charged in as they created chaos among the enemy ranks. As Naruto then started to flash around the field, the captain of Daimyo's guard stepped back as he saw the yellow flash in their own. That was all they saw as they started to be cut down one after another. A few suicidal started to blow themselves up trying to take him down, but all they hit was an after image. As two enemies rushed towards Naruto, they tried to body slam him, but Naruto slammed into them. Their ribcage broke upon contact. His bones were enhanced to the point where their weak little bones could not stand up against his. As he was being kicked from the side, Naruto jumped and brought his leg down as he destroyed the kneecap of the enemy before kicking his head straight off his shoulder. As Naruto blades spin with fire as he spin, he flipped through the crowd like a buzzsaw, severing heads and limbs and arms. The daimyo watched as half of his men got killed within a couple of seconds. Realizing the dangerous situation, as one of his men was about to get mercilessly slaughtered, he flashed right between him and Naruto. Steel clashed against steel as their swords met in fiery flash. Fire clashed against lightning. What are you? The enemy commander asks because this man couldn't be any normal human. His eyes widened as the ash burst from Naruto's body and rained down on him and his comrades around him. Death, said Naruto, as the ash went off, burning them. As Naruto kept on moving, his eyes fixed on the group of monsters that looked towards him with nothing but hatred in their eyes. He stepped in front of them as he was soaked in the blood of his enemy, his red burning eyes looking deep into their souls. More enemy forces started to emerge until someone dropped from the sky like a bomb. As Kisame slaughtered, pushing them back away from Naruto. Mei came in as lava rained down, incinerating them. The last Sparta. Cold red eyes glare murderously towards a familiar voice as a tall, muscular blonde man stepped forward. He was wearing a standard Kumo flap jacket that was black on the edges, and he was wearing a purple high collar shirt uniform over it as he had his headband on. His right arm had the word gold etched into his skin permanently. He carried with him one of the most powerful weapons in this world, one that was said to be used by the Sage of Six Paths himself, the Basojin. Kinkaku, said Naruto, the leader of Kumo's elite backups, grinned at him as he looked towards the savage carnage that Naruto left in his pathway. We thought that you committed suicide after your village, and notes that story after your pathetic defeat at our hands all those years ago. Kinkaku mocked as he brought his fan on his shoulder. I will not die until I slaughter every last one of you, said Naruto. Kinkaku laughed as he patted one of his special ops soldiers beside him as he pointed towards Naruto. Now that's a real monster. They don't make any more like us anymore, Kinkaku said. Well then, you won't mind if I make all of you disappear, said Naruto. Make sure you make this interesting before you die, okay? Said Kinkaku, as red chakra engulfed him, as 9 tails spring from his back, as Naruto twisted his blade until he was holding them backwards, as ash hovered over him, as the Kinkaku force, including Kinkaku, released their entire power. Malice, chaos, as a ground quake, trees were blown, and yet Naruto stood there unfazed by it all. He remembered that night, his friends, his comrades, his brother. The malice inside of Naruto seemed to just burn even hotter, like a sun being ignited. The ground shook and ripped apart as he shot forward towards his enemies. Meanwhile, in the White Castle, Minjutsu and his team ran silently in the shadows. As they concealed their movements, their task was a tad bit easier, as the majority of the forces in here had rushed off after they heard a commotion outside. Still, a sizable force remained behind, and it was up to him to deal with them. He held up a fist as the group took a stop, as a group of royal guards rushed outside. He released a dozen water bullets that pierced their leg. Before they even noticed them, Amor then released lightning towards them. Jinpachi launched his blade that was attached to a wire as it pierced through their skulls, stopping them from making any noise. He then went forward and pulled them away as Zabuza sealed away their body into a scroll. Mainjutsu looked toward his team as Imurai ordered a release, a water release to move away, the blood stain on the carpet. While Zabuza take the blades away and seal them as well. He nodded towards his comrades and earned the same just in return. As they continued their little game of hide and seek while taking down the enemies that came across him, Mainjutsu felt like they were working better together than ever before. A trust that Naruto had put into them because of his leadership, and he would not let him down. As they took care of the guards outside, they smashed the door open as they saw Daimyo's wife, shielding her 5 children. The woman begged for mercy as her children screamed. There was no mercy in Jinpachi or Imurai's eyes as Zabuza raised his blade. It was part of the mission, but something inside Mainjutsu hesitated as he looked towards the terrified children and the broken mother, who realized that she couldn't do anything. He could only imagine their horror of being surrounded by the enemy, their guards dead, the daimyo being nowhere to protect them. I will do it. He raised a hand sign and the children, all of them fell unconscious. Before their mother could even blink, a sword was stabbed clean through her heart. He touched her chest as his chakra take control of her nervous system, preventing her from dying instantly. Where's your husband? He asked. But the woman glared at him even as she groaned in agony. Her resolve broke through as she saw Imurai raise a kunai to throw at her youngest child, a girl of only 8. His guards must have taken him outside the castle by a tunnel in the basement. That's all I know, she said in a broken voice, knowing that she just condemned her husband and leader to the same fate. As she looked towards Mainjutsu, please spare my children. He lost his grip on her chest on hearing those words as she fell backwards, dead. Mainjutsu saw all the children getting soaked in their mother's blood. He knew that he would never forget this night, but the mission was not over. The children, said Zabuza in a cold voice as Mainjutsu clenched his fist. We can do it if it's too difficult for you, said Imurai. Better hurry up, reinforcements are coming, said Jinpachi. Mainjutsu pulled out 5 needles as he hit each child with it. The poison spread across their body rather quickly and gave them a quick death. He looked at the 6 corpses in front of him for a long moment as he accepted what he had just done. Haku arrived at the door as she saw, look in his eyes. After seeing what he had done, he had murdered women before, and men, but never children. The daimyo's advisors, Zabuza asked. It's done, Haku said. The daimyo, Jinpachi asked. But Haku shook her head no. Well, it's strange, he left his own family behind to save his life. Well, politicians, they're all cowards, said Imurai. Let's find him and end this once and for all, Mainjutsu said, as he returned back to the task. As Haku looked towards him, she had known him since they were children, and she saw that something inside him had changed tonight. As he walked past her, she placed a hand on his shoulder as he turned to look at her. Someday this war will end, and it will be worth it, she said. But she got a bitter, sweet smile. No, this war will only bring out the worst in us all. Haku was truly saddened on hearing him say that. His words sent a shiver across her heart. She narrowed her eyes as a squad of ninja reached the corridor, but Mainjutsu was already upon them. The 7 cloud ninjas released their blades as it sliced right through him. But to their shock, his body turned to water. Before they could blink, he appeared behind them and severed their heads. Let's go, he said. We have a job to do. Meanwhile, in the basement, Kushina cursed her luck as she was forced to sprint down the narrow alleyway, making her way along with the protection of the daimyo. Captain, the daimyo will not show us any mercy if we leave his wife and children behind, Kushina argued. But the commander looked towards her with a cold look. The whole squad has gone dark inside the castle, Karen, he said. There's a different unit that is tasked to protect our feudal lord. Family, our main goal is to ensure that he survives. If the castle is breached, our safe bet is to take him towards the nearest stronghold and make a plan there. Staying here only increases chance of him getting executed. We have no idea the enemy number and their strength. Karen was Kushina's code name. As she nodded, this did not do well for her plan of getting the daimyo killed. Her own escape plan was blasted to dust, and she had to follow orders or she risked getting her cover exposed and killed herself. Where the hell are you, Minato, she thought. She glanced towards the unconscious feudal lord, being carried by one of the skilled envoy. It would be rather easy to take his life in an instant. Maybe if she timed it right, she could assassinate his squad and make her escape. Her hand reached towards her blade, but her captain raised a hand, telling them to stop. She narrowed her gaze as she saw a faint shadow in the far off end of a tunnel. A smile came on her face when she saw that he had red eyes as the squad pulled their blades, including Kushina, and she readied her blade to strike the daimyo as her ally was coming towards her. But when he was a few hundred meters away, those eyes, no, those eyes were not the one that she remembered. Time skip at Kiri. Toburama sat at the residence of his prison home. If he focused, he could feel a dozen envoys and hunter nins, ready to stop him if he made an unexpected move. Still, it didn't worry him, but the information that was given to him by the man standing in front of him, that did. Are you sure about this? He asked sternly. Yes, Lord Second. It seems like Lord Harrison had agreed to a few demands in retaliation of trade between our nations apart from the ransom for your release. Kiri has won the diplomatic battle. Toburama clenched his fist slightly. I can't believe that the Jonins, the elders, would be so weak-willed, all for the sake of one man. He cursed his decision for the first time. If he made a mistake choosing Harrison as successor. Sir, you're the head of the Senju clan, brother of the great Hashirama, war veteran, and capable of leading our military force back from the jaws of defeat. The sentiment back home right now is quite weak, Toburama-sama. Our losses are horrific at this rate. We will run out of ninjas before our enemies lose theirs. The people are desperate, and so is the Fire Lord, said Sakamoto. Then they all have lost rationality. Saving one man, at the cost of the future, might win this war. But, in the long run, the only enemy they shall lose to is Kiri. That is exactly why we need you back in Konoha, no matter the cost. Toburama sighed, but he gave a reluctant nod. A part of him was disappointed in his prize student, but he could understand what they were going through without him there. When will the transfer happen? Asked Toburama. Once the 7 ninja swordsmen are back, they will escort you back to Konoha and oversee the signing of the treaty. Toburama didn't take long to realize that crafty Mizukage, my lord, said Takamo confused. He will send his own son, who will not just represent the Hoshiki clan, but the entire Land of Water as an important delegate. I suppose Genjutsu want to groom both him and Naruto to replace him in the future. This event shall give them a diplomatic experience, which is crucial for any future Kage. The presence of the 7 being there is a show of pure power, and that it should be feared. All of this. I guess I underestimate that man. My lord, there's something else I want to bring to your attention. Toburama saw the nervous look on Sakamoto's face, and his chakra felt unbalanced. Something was up. Speak. Ino Yamanaka is pregnant. Toburama grit his teeth as he tried to keep himself calm. Instantly, memories of his last conversation with Naruto flooded through his mind. Should I perish, you will take Ino Yamanaka out of Kiri. By now, Toburama knew that Naruto was his child. Everything from the DNA report, their similar chakra, his powers, the resolve, the similar look. He was his son. I barely entered my 40s, and this boy is planned to make me a grandfather. Sakamoto saw Toburama's smile. If only barely. If things get too dangerous on Naruto's current assignment, pull her out of Kiri, Toburama ordered. Sakamoto was surprised by that order. And Toburama spoke. You have a son, don't you? Yes. He's quite young, Sakamoto said. You have not seen him in person, held him in your arms, or heard him call your name, or call you father. No, never. A ninja life is all I had the honor to know. Toburama looked at the night sky. I wanted to be there for my son, he said. But now, for the first time, Sakamoto saw regret in Toburama's eyes as he clenched his fist shut. As a father himself, he could understand what the Senju leader felt in this moment. Has there been any news of Naruto and his men? Asked Toburama. Not so far. The Mizukage has not sent out any rescue teams, but he's nervous, said Sakamoto. I couldn't do anything for Naruto. The fact that I don't know his true name is a proof of my failure as a father. Many would say I'm not responsible for his pain and suffering, because I never knew that he existed. But now I know, and I won't back away from him. We may have our differences, but he's family, a Senju, and we look out for our own. Sakamoto nodded. My lord, Ino is a part of a special unit investigating traitors that might be inside Kiri. Her presence in there so far has saved the life of our operatives. She desired to stay and keep on fighting to protect our men, despite the danger to her life. Well, she has a strong spirit. No wonder she got through to someone like Naruto. I have a feeling that Naruto cares about her deeply. Did he ask you to do this? Asked Sakamoto. More like threatening me, Toburama said. Sakamoto was speechless at that. Toburama on the other hand knew how important Ino was to Naruto, and he would honor that promise. if anything happened. Time skip. It was nighttime in the village, same way. 4 shadows moved from rooftop to rooftop as they moved towards the eastern section of the village. 3 of them were wearing standard Anbu masks, while 1 of them were wearing the hunter mask. As Ino observed, her investigators running beside her. To say they were all a strange bunch would be an understatement. The most experienced amongst their squad was a middle-aged man with stark white hair. He went by the name Kijima. He had a sadistic streak when he found and dealt with his enemies. She could still hear the screams of his enemy once they were captured and charges were placed about their treason. The man methods were barbaric, and each of his victims cracked in the end. The other boy was a young boy. He was just in his teens, but he was fast with his blade. He was one of the best tracker in the Anvu branch right now, and he had the highest successful rate when come towards assassination missions. While no one knew his name, fellow operatives called him Kage because of his fast fighting style. The last one was someone, well, he was rather nice. His name was Hoshi. He didn't like the barbaric actions. It was rather strange considering that he was a member of the Kaguya clan, who were known to never show any, well, sympathy towards their enemies. He had a dangerous power that can weaponize the bones in his body. He was rather dangerous. So what's our mission tonight? Your summons. Didn't have any information, Ino said, as she looked towards her squad leader. The older man glanced back at her, as she saw the distrust and spite in his gaze. It was natural for all Kiri shinobis. They were always mistrustful of their comrades. It was quite strange given the fact that they were supposed to be watching each other back. But Kijima, he was paranoid to the absolute max. He never revealed anything unless it was necessary, especially with her. He didn't answer her question as he kept on moving. As they arrived towards the isolated part of the village, Ino's heart skipped a beat as she realized where they were. This place, Hoshi said. He was shocked, hesitation in his voice. The young boy remained silent, but he was ready for anything and you could see it by his tense gaze. Our next target resides here, said Kijima in a whisper. I can't believe it. One of us? Hoshi said. It can't be, as he was looking towards a very highly secretive post where a few of the Black Op members reside, along with their families. It doesn't matter what you believe. We have our orders. The Anvu commander is certain that this little shit is a traitor. She claimed to have escaped from one of the nearby tiny islands when a plague broke out in that island a few years ago. Considering that it was a time of war, and so many orphans were moving around, no one considered anything. But unlike other orphans at her age, she had talent, and she was quickly able to enter the academy, and became an Anvu over the years. But recently, one of her teams went to check out her background. She claimed that her father, mother, and two older brother perished in the plague, and she was the only survivor. Our team went over the record of the island, and we found a interesting piece of fact, said Kijima. Ino gulped slightly. More and more this man talked about the backstory. It matched perfectly with one of the youngest operatives that they have here, that was from Konoha. You see why the residents on the island confirmed that girl lived there. The last they had saw of her was when she ran out into the sea and grieved for her family's death and never returned. Most believe her dead until she showed up in Kiri, but I have a feeling that there's something fishy there. How can a child the age of 10 with no knowledge of training on chakra survive at sea for half a day before being rescued by a merchant ship? He passed on the notebook, a small one, to each of them. Ino froze as she saw the picture of a target. Mikoto Uchiha. This evidence really doesn't prove much, Hoshi said. Kaze shook his head. Learn from him, the commander said. The Anvu commander wants to bring her in for questioning. Say this girl might lead us to more traitors, said Kajima as he clenched his fists. What if he is wrong? It could sow distrust amongst the village and the Anvu, even against the commander. They are a close-knit group and look out for another, Ino said. The commander is already prepared for that, and so is the Mizukage. Now, we have our orders. Hoshi looked conflicted. Kaze fell in line, but none of them made any protest. Reluctantly, she gave her a nod of acceptance. As the squad entered the district, she saw a small puddle of water in the corner of the street. When she passed by it, a barely visible hand sign made a shadow emerge from that puddle. One bearing her face that looked towards her with a knowing gaze. As she disappeared in a nearby alley, she could only hope that her water clone report to Sakumo as soon as possible to what they had discovered. If Mikoto was captured and interrogated, they could find out how Ino had faked the test, for all of the Konoha agents that were there, and could lead into Sakamoto, maybe even Naruto. The thought of watching the man that she loved being captured and brutalized, like what they did to the other spies, made her nauseous. Capturing the target is a mission. Try not to rough her up too much, Kijima said. She's an envoy. She will put up a fight, Hoshi said. That is what we got Mrs. Namikaze here for. Try to knock some sense into the brat to make her come peacefully. We three will surround the apartment, just in case she tried to escape. Think you can handle it, Kijima said. Of course, said Ino, without hesitation. As they got closer and closer, a question haunted Ino's heart. Protect Konoha, or protect a comrade, or the one that she loved. Meanwhile, at the land of lightning, fire style, hellfire, Mei yelled as the girl beneath her feet shook violently. As she fell flat in her ass, she watched every soldier, every enemy around her receive the same fate. As the nearby forest was uprooted, as it felt like the entire mountain was coming apart, she felt a bone-crushing weight fell upon her by the aura that was being spread around. She looked towards Kisame, who was in the same condition as her. Kisame had a large amount of chakra reserves, and here he was in the same condition. Some of the Kumo forces had died out of shock. The younger ones, their heart couldn't take this amount of foul energy. She watched as dozens of scorching flames came up from the very earth itself. It was like they were here to wipe away all the sins of the crimes of the people that they committed. They disappear up in the clouds, painting the sky red. What is this energy? Kisame said the painful grunt. Run, girl, before it is too late. Mei heard the word of her Biju inside of her. As she saw Kinkaku growing, his armor expanding, his hand that was clasped together, that he released these giant infernal flames, started to change into claws as he started to look less and less human. In a matter of 30 seconds, Mei and every other human watching complete shock as they saw the creature in front of them. They've only heard stories about it. The nine-tailed fox. That crazy bastard! He's not allowed to transform like that ever, one of the Kumo leaders whispered. What the hell is going on? His entire force has released their full power. Why would he go so far? Who the hell are they fighting? Kisame was shocked they released their full power from the start. It was shocking. As Kisame eyes snapped towards Naruto, who stood there, there was absolutely no fear, no hesitation coming from him. His eyes looked towards the demonic fox and the enemy force in front of him. Run! As many of Kumo ninjas fled. Mei could not fault them after all. Well, it was about to get nasty. Half of them fled instantly. A few commanders tried to stop them, but they were overpowered by the fearful ninjas. Only a small population remained, but they didn't seem interested in the fight anymore. They only want to watch a scene that was going to unfold in front of them. The volcanic eruptions prevent anyone from stepping inside the battle that was about to begin. Mei was afraid for Naruto's safety. She knew that he was powerful, but he was just one man. She had to do something, but why? Why the hell was she hesitating? It's because you will die, child, the slug inside of her said. Mei looked towards a monstrous Biju. It was hard to tell how he was feeling because there was no face to give away the emotion of the beast. Granted, he never tried to speak to her that much, or he never speak towards her with hate, but he did try to take over her body anytime she tapped into his power. However, there was times when he granted her his power to save their life. Then so be it, she said. He looked down towards her from the cage that he was stuck in. He looked curious, just from the way he was tilting his head. You like this man, don't you? The sixth tail asked curiously. Naruto is gazing at a future I can't even see. He's a symbol of hope, pride for my village, for my people. Most of all, he's a dear friend who tried to be there for me and expect nothing in return. And he never looked down on me because I was a Jinchuriki. He's not perfect and he has many flaws, but he's a commander I chose to follow into this hell. It's only right that I follow him, said Mei. As the sixth tail felt the fear in her heart, but there was also love for that man. She didn't want to let him down even if it meant her death. That's my answer. What about you, said Mei. What about me? Do you like losing to the nine tails that much? Asked Mei. As she watches the thing look rampant, as it smashed against the cage, it wanted to fight. And they were gonna fight. Mei felt it as it hit her. As she felt stronger than she ever felt before. She looked behind her, she saw four tails, and she was in control. It was thanks to the Biju, allowing her to do this. As she quickly made away, As Naruto turned his head. Why? He said. It's what needs to be done. She said with a smile. You're a fine shinobi, me, he said. She gave him a slight bow as she turned towards the enemy. As Naruto looked towards Kisame, think you can handle him? As he glanced towards the other enemies there, who were glaring hatefully as their resolve came back. Only the strong and the ruthless and determined remained. The wimps had already run away. Kisame slammed his hands together. His chest swelled. Water release. Water shockwave. As the ninjas screamed as they were enveloped. As Kisame went crazy. He wouldn't let any one of them go close. What's the plan, Commander? Solo or co-op, said me. He raised a single hand sign. She smirked in return. Farewell. He closed his eyes. Dark lines spread from his forehead going straight down, as they spread all over his body going down to his neck. When he opened his eyes, Mei saw a reddish green color with slits. It was a slit pattern. As Mei could not understand, was this a power of sage chakra? It felt like he was everywhere at the same time. The ability to become one with nature and become the all-seeing. He was right beside her, and yet he felt like he was hundreds of miles over there, behind her, all around. The first wave of Kinkaku came towards him. Let's go with formation D, she said. As she flashed through hand sign, Mei unleashed 4 dozen green liquid bullets from her mouth that rushed towards the monsters coming towards them. The Kinkaku members dodged using their speed until one of them saw a black bullet. It was barely seeable under the disguise of those acid balls. He blinked. The next thing he knew, he saw his body. He was confused. His body was falling, so his head was severed as the violent combustible that sliced through his throat exploded his head. The last thing he saw was black flashes ripping through the entire area, slaughtering his squad one after another. Meanwhile, Kisame turned his head. 3 seconds he looked away. He saw 14 Kinkaku members charge towards me and Naruto, and now there was 14 corpses without heads. What the hell happened in 3 seconds? It's him. Some of the Kumo members whispered. The demon killer. We need to flee. As Kisame remembered in the city, when the members had saw Naruto and the fear in their eyes. Coincidence didn't happen twice. The ninjas a few moments ago wanted to fight, but now they were afraid. As he was going to end this as he went through one sign, water style, water bullet. Several of the forces were burst apart. Many of them started to flee, but not from him. Kisame saw one of them fell, but he was not dead as he jumped over. Why are your people so afraid of him? The boy whispered something. Biju, killer. As he struggled to speak, Kisame lowered himself and placed his hand on the boy's chest, pushing some chakra into him. Just hear what he had to say. Sparta. Village S. Rank secret. The Black Flash. The boy's body gave out. Kisame was confused. Was there something that Naruto was hiding from them all? Meanwhile, Kushina was surprised as her own comrades turned towards her as she blocked their attacks. What the hell are you doing? She said. As she saw his eyes gazed over, she didn't realize Genjutsu. Her attempts to dispel the motive of Genjutsu was unsuccessful, and she arrived at only one conclusion: to place Anbu Black Ops in such an unbreakable Genjutsu, just from a mere glance. There was no mistaking it as she looked towards the Red Eye Man. She jumped away as the masked man stepped beside him. Oh, a smart and strong one you are. To think you resist my visual prowess, the man said. Sharingan, said Kushina as she avoided looking into his eyes. He created a clone of himself that took the lightning daimyo and disappeared in a wave of flames. You're in my way. Kushina took a step back as a killing intent, more dangerous than a Biju, washed over her. She saw a quick flash as all of her former comrades' heads were severed from their shoulders as their body crashed. To think you have such a strong will to resist my Genjutsu. The tales about you Spartans were really true after all, the masked man said. But then again, I was not even using a fraction of my own power. Kushina froze in fear. Those words, they came from behind her as she turned, and she saw red. But guys, we end episode right here. If you want the next person, do like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notification stay posted. Remember to share to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also guys, stay tuned for the rest of what is coming your way over in Anime King 2 and Anime King 3. And if you're new, yes, you heard that correctly. I indeed have 3 channels, Anime King 2, Anime King 3, which I post what fun every single day for you guys to enjoy. So go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and support, and yeah, without further ado, I'm out for now. See you guys soon. Peace out.